Second, Hoffman's Nerve Testing Center, advanced professional imaging. Patients were referred to him for testing as part of the workers' compensation scheme. Hoffman would perform an EMG test on them, which should be billed at $35 each, or could be billed, allowed by the insurance company, $35 per test. Instead, Hoffman and Mitchell are charged with billing insurance companies for single fiber EMGs, which can be billed at $330 per test. To give you some perspective, an EMG is a non-invasive outpatient procedure. A single fiber EMG, on the other hand, is an invasive, painful procedure, often needing hospitalization to prevent bleeding and infection. Single fiber EMGs take an hour to perform and involve sticking a giant needle into a single nerve. The needle tests electrical conduction. Only 2 doctors in California are qualified to perform this test. That's because of how complex it is and the special training required to do the test. Hoffman is not one of those 2 doctors. And Hoffman didn't just bill for one single fiber EMG per patient. According to his bills, the patients went through the painful procedure over 20 times each. This scheme resulted in over $9 million in fraudulent billing. Most of the patients were blue-collar workers, and the majority of those were Spanish speakers. Let me talk to you about 56-year-old Jane Doe. After 30 years with the same company, Jane Doe hurt her wrist and ankle by tripping over some boxes at work. Through the referral of an attorney, Jane Doe was sent to Hoffman's mill. On the conveyor belt, she underwent a sleep study, an MRI, and nerve testing. Jane Doe was never told of the results of her diagnostic test. Months later, she was informed by her attorney that her claim had been denied by the insurance company. Jane Doe, shut out of her own case, was paid $5,900 in cash and told that she could seek care in Tijuana. She never received any treatment for her injuries. Hoffman, on the other hand, is still, to this day, aggressively pursuing payment of Jane Doe's fraudulent medical bills in the form of liens amounting to over $15,000. Now multiply Jane Doe's case by 1,200 patients. These patients were used as pawns in Hoffman's piggy bank. The volume of this scheme leads to only one reasonable conclusion: not accidental, intentional. Herrick, Mitchell, Santillon created a $17 million medical bill at the expense of 1,200 patients and the workers' compensation insurance system. In Hoffman's analysis assembly line, patient out, profit in, it's no secret that these types of frauds are resulting in higher insurance rates and hemorrhaging California businesses. We need to end these types of medical fraud mill stat. Let's end unethical doctors, unscrupulous dealings, and patients being treated like walking ATMs.